For this proposed season of Young Justice, Season 4 would center entirely around Darkseid's final siege on Earth. Where previous seasons have focused on the interpersonal conflicts of our heroes and villains, this season is all about creating fragile alliances between characters. The series would focus on our core group of characters, Nightwing, Miss Martian, Superboy, and Aqualad, now Aquaman, with characters like Halo and Blue Beetle filling auxiliary roles in the background. Now before we get started on the actual story, a few points of clarity. One, this is just a writing exercise. In no way do we think we're better writers than the people who are creating Young Justice. The sheer amount of work that's required to create any show is incredible, and it's a miracle that anything gets made. Two, we have a list of must-haves and wants for the series that will be guiding us as we go. Our list of must-haves are as follows. There has to be a final climax that includes a meaningful resolution, not just to the season, but to the series. Because, let's face it, Darkseid is the end-all be-all villain. We're not going to be able to raise the stakes in a fifth season. Two, we want to have callbacks to larger narratives thus far, like the Reach invasion, Halo and Cyborg's connection to Fourth World, and the Light's master plan. Three, we want a clear focus on the original team within the larger DC universe. It's called Young Justice, not Justice League Unlimited. This is why a lot of folks feel that Season 3 of Young Justice didn't exactly live up, because it focused on dozens of characters, and not all of them fit the mold that the series was based around. Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning, is an interesting and strong character, but the show is Young Justice, and he's in his 30s to 40s, so he's cool, but he also, one, has his own show, and two, isn't one of the core characters that have been built up through the previous two seasons. A list of wants where that the Markovia plot has to come back in some way that affects the larger story. Two, we want a return of old favorite characters like the Forever People, Cheshire and Roy Harper, Dr. Fate, Captain Marvel, and of course Beast Boy. And we wanted Vandal Savage to be instrumental in Darkseid's ultimate downfall. In Season 3, they built up how important the rivalry between Vandal Savage and Darkseid was, and the end of Season 3 was somewhat lacking on that front, with them ending in the same way Season 2 ended, with a business-as-usual handshake. If Season 4 was to continue with this Darkseid war as an overarching story, that dynamic needed to change to something way more aggressive. But let's get to the story itself. Open on the Outsiders in the midst of battling Professor Ivo and his robot monkey drones. Cat Grant and the press catch the tail end of the adventure as the young teen heroes once again are seen as world-class heroes. Cat Grant briefly recaps how this is just the latest victory for the Outsiders since their triumphant victory over Granny Goodness some months ago. We cut to the Watchtower as the League is watching this coverage, commenting how the world may think the threat is over, but the real battle has just begun. A meeting of the Justice League has been called to discuss the rise in Darkseid's forces throughout the galaxy. Aquaman, Nightwing, and Miss Martian are in attendance. The Green Lanterns have been stretched thin, battling Darkseid on all sides, and the intergalactic community at large is suffering on a grand scale. On a more terrestrial level, the League believes that Apocalypse has already infiltrated Earth, and have already dispatched their heavy hitters to take out their base. We cut to Santa Prisca, where we see a battle between the Justice League and some villains. Bane is battling Batman, Poison Ivy's fighting Wonder Woman, and we can have the Terror Twins fighting Superman. Other side members of the League may also be in this encounter, like the Hawks or Guy Gardner, but we definitely want the big three to be there. The villains are clearly not acting as they would be, no doubt being influenced by the mental manipulations of Apocalypse. The fight is cut short, though, when the controlled villains activate a boom tube and send our heroes directly to the throne room of Darkseid. The encounter is fast and desperate, as we watch Darkseid easily dispatch the likes of Superman and Wonder Woman. Batman, as a last act of defiance, sends out a priority signal back to the Watchtower. Then he and the League are captured. We return to the Watchtower where Black Lightning and Nightwing are monitoring the multiple teams currently on duty, trying to determine where Alpha and Santa Prisca just disappeared to when they get Batman's signal. It's a priority alert. His team has been captured and are either dead or being held by an overwhelming force. Black Lightning immediately wants to recall the other teams and start planning a rescue op, but Nightwing stops him. Batman's priority signal would only be sent in a worst-case scenario, one where escape or rescue would be impossible. It's Nightwing's belief that Batman did not believe he and his team could be saved. Black Lightning disagrees, even chiding Grayson for abandoning his mentor, but Nightwing counters that protecting Earth has to come first. Batman knows that, and if Batman didn't think it could succeed, then it couldn't succeed. Black Lightning again disagrees and calls on an emergency meeting of the League anyway. Nightwing, still against the decision, locks onto Batman's last signal trace on Earth and discovers a video of Poison Ivy leaving Santa Prisca, clearly disoriented from something only minutes after Alpha went missing. Nightwing tells Jefferson that he's going to assemble a team to track her down. Maybe she'll know something about what happened. Lightning agrees, and the two separate to lead their respective teams. Lightning will assemble the League to coordinate a rescue of those who were lost, while Grayson and the covert team find Poison Ivy to discover how she and villains like her were controlled by Darkseid in the first place. Black Lightning assembles the League, and immediately there is tension in the room. Veteran heroes disagree with Black Lightning's decision to start a rescue effort for Batman's priority alert. Even though the boom tube signature can be traced and followed, they'd be using a Zeta tube to teleport there, and there's no guarantee they could come back. Furthermore, characters like Red Tornado assess the likelihood of the League's return on a practical level, but Black Lightning cuts through the crosstalk with an emphatic point. The world cannot lose its symbols. Characters like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman inspire hope. The rest of the League can do good work, sure, but the ones who were lost were pillars, icons who've been missing from Earth for quite some time, and ones that Earth desperately needs to fight this growing darkness. All the same, despite this emotional plea, many members of the League still will not go on this mission, choosing to protect those who are still there rather than risk dying for people who might already be gone. The Earth needs defenders and can't risk losing anymore. Meanwhile, with Nightwing, the covert team is receiving their briefing on Poison Ivy. She was recently declared legally sane as part of her genuine rehabilitation effort. She was making good strides to re-enter society, which makes her recent turn all the more surprising. Their first lead is Dr. Harleen Quinzel, the lead psych professional in charge of Pamela's case. They have reason to believe that the two grew to become close friends. She might be hiding Pamela as they speak. Alpha is going to touch down on Santa Prisca to investigate boom tube traces and piece together the scene, while Beta talks to Dr. Quinzel about Isley, trying to convince her that the team wants to look after her well-being, fearing that Ivy's disappearance might not have been planned. Nightwing believes that Ivy's natural pheromones may have prematurely freed her from apocalyptic control. Alpha consists of more heavily powered characters like Terra, Superboy, and Blue Beetle, as the team expects a fight in Santa Prisca, while Beta is more about negotiation and shadowing Dr. Quinn, being speared by Nightwing, Tigress, and Miss Martian. Alpha takes the bioship and touches down on Santa Prisca, finding no evidence that Bane's men were ever there to begin with. As they begin tracing where the boom tube signal was for the Justice League, parademons flood in from just out of sight and begin surrounding our heroes. Blue Beetle continues work on locating the signal's destination, while the rest of the team fights. Dick Grayson and Megan Morse knock on Dr. Quinn's door, disguised as detectives to talk about Pamela Isley's disappearance. Nightwing and Megan can tell she's lying about not knowing where Pamela is. She's hiding something. Blue Beetle finishes reaching the signal, and in the heat of combat directly transmits it to the Watchtower. Black Lightning and his strike team receive it and begin reconfiguring the Watchtower's Zeta tubes to send them there. The League away team departs and arrives on Apokolips, the home of Darkseid, and they are immediately set upon by Parademon. The League engages as we cut back to our covert team, using their stealth skills to follow Dr. Quinn to a safe house, where she meets up with Ivy. At first, the team does not want to engage, but then the Light's enforcer, Lady Shiva, and the League of Shadows arrives, attempting to assassinate the pair of them. Beta jumps into the fray, as it quickly becomes a three-way battle between them, the Shadows, and Poison Ivy, as plant vines begin grappling with friend and foe alike. Alpha fights off the last of the parademons, but only afterwards does Blue Beetle realize the data he just transmitted? It wasn't a direct follow of where the League went, it was a second signal, one that Apokolips had no doubt planted before they arrived. The destination he just sent was into an apocalyptian trap. Darkseid wanted to be followed. We move backwards only a few minutes as the Justice League team aboard the Watchtower sees the away team off, having just received their signal. Black Canary is concerned for their safety, but Green Arrow tries to calm her, only to be interrupted by an emergency signal from Blue Beetle. The destination was a trap. Black Canary calls out for Adam Strange to bring back their away team quickly, but it's already too late. They're gone. The battle with Beta continues as Shiva gets in close, trying to kill Poison Ivy, making mention of tying up loose ends. Dr. Quinn, with surprising acrobatics, stops Shiva momentarily, but Shiva quickly disables her, only for Miss Martian and Nightwing to intervene. The League of Shadows regroup, and with a final word of warning to the team, disappear into smoke. Poison Ivy is returned to a cell at Belrev Prison, while Dr. Quinn is taken to Gotham PD for questioning. Teams Alpha and Beta meet the League at the Watchtower, with Nightwing learning from Blue Beetle and Black Canary that the entire operation was a trap. Superboy brings up that the world is going to know that the League is short-staffed now, and after the fiasco several months ago with Batman Incorporated, he thinks that transparency is the key to public approval. Canary is hesitant, but Aquaman and Miss Martian agree. They need to be honest. Aquaman, alongside Superboy and Miss Martian, make a public statement to the UN. They say that metahuman trafficking has gone down, that they believe it was a plot by Granny Goodness, working with an extraterrestrial entity known as Darkseid, and that the League is seeing to stopping this galactic threat. As to not spread chaos, Aquaman does lie to the public, claiming that many members of the League are off-world in an attempt to destabilize Darkseid's tyrannical efforts across the galaxy. When confronted by Superboy and Miss M psychically, Calder argues that mentioning the League's defeat would only incite mass hysteria. We see a montage of multiple citizens hearing this news, some distraught, some saying good riddance, and others, our more calculating villains, watching with a contemplative stare. No character, however, acts on any schemes just yet, save only for Vandal Savage, cast in heavy shadows from within his lair. We return to Apocalypse as the away team are placed in archaic prison cells, opposite the original lost members of the League. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are all in chains, clearly battered by torturous instruments. Batman explains with strained breath that they weren't killed because Apocalyptians are people molded by torture. They want to break the League to use them, as well as encourage the rest of Earth's protectors to be sent away from Earth on a foolhardy rescue mission. Black Lightning apologizes for his failure, but Wonder Woman tells him to steal his heart. They haven't been beaten yet. She looks past the embers of Apocalypse's fire pits, across the stars, as we transition back to the Watchtower. Nightwing and Aquaman begin tallying what they have and what is left to do. Isley is not talking, but clearly the Light wants her dead, indicating they knew of her involvement with the incident on Santa Prisca. Furthermore, Lady Shiva mentioned loose ends, leading them both to believe that in one way or another, the Light still has ties to Apocalypse. At that very moment, the two of them are hailed on an emergency frequency aboard the Watchtower. Both realize from the code of the frequency exactly who the caller is, and with bated breath they answer the call, as Vandal Savage comes on screen. Aquaman starts. Vandal Savage. Aquaman. It seems our temporary alliance has not yet run its course. Indeed, it seems we have much still to do. Episode 4 opens exactly where Episode 3 left off, with Vandal Savage communicating with the Watchtower. Aquaman explains that this emergency frequency was established after the team's most recent encounter with Granny Goodness, and was to be used only if either the League or the Light believed that the threat of Apocalypse was too great for either of them to defeat alone. Vandal apologizes for interrupting whatever the League was preparing, but he has need of them. He knows that now, more than ever, Earth is threatened, and he needs the League's help. We open on Star City. A news coverage continues to report the rise in crimes after the League's public UN announcement. Looters shatter the video store's window and begin to grab tech, only to be quickly apprehended by Red Arrow, the older Roy Harper, now going as Will. We see a flicker of Shadow. He follows the shadow to an alley, and Cheshire makes her appearance known. Both are at ease with one another despite their chosen professions. Cheshire, seemingly frustrated, needs Roy's help with something. We return to the Watchtower, where Nightwing, Aquaman, Miss Martian, Tigress, and Superboy are discussing Vandal Savage's proposal. Aquaman explains that Vandal's history has shown that he is capable of great deceit. However, he does not believe that the Light would be asking for help if they could just as easily force others to do their dirty work, as they've seen before. Miss Martian is against the idea, noting all the bad that the Light has done throughout the past, referencing primarily what happened to Beast Boy's mother. Superboy is also against the idea, citing Project Cadmus's illegal experiments. With Nightwing and Aquaman arguing for, and Superboy and Miss Martian arguing against, both sides turn to Tigress. The team is somewhat of a democracy, and now Artemis is the deciding vote. Artemis fully understands the evil of the Light, comprehends the desperation that both the Light and the League are under. Ultimately, she decides that the League cannot afford to turn away help, not even from the Light. After all, it's their planet too. Nightwing is relieved to hear her say it, but she cuts him short. One slip-up, one excuse, any sign that the Light is going to betray the League, and they call the whole thing off. Aquaman turns to Miss Martian and Superboy. They can live with that. Will wants to know what Cheshire is talking about, but she can't explain. All she tells him is that the shadows are on fire right now, and she needs someone who can watch her back. Will's ready to do anything for her, taking her hands, but she pulls away. She's not some damsel, she's an assassin. She just needs a bit of help. One job, that's it. Will is a bit reluctant, but Cheshire tells him that there's no time to decide. They need to go immediately. Will says that he can't just leave Leanne, but Cheshire tells him that it would only be for a few days. Days? Will starts to backstep a bit. What kind of job is this? She repeats that she can't tell him anything else, and that he should just come with her, but Will won't do it. He won't abandon Leanne. Cheshire sighs. She knew he'd say that, but just wanted to be sure. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Cheshire takes off her mask and tells Will the truth. Lady Shiva has usurped the League of Shadows and has become its new head. There was a coup attempt, and Cheshire had briefly defended Slade. When the tide had turned, she'd fled, but now Lady Shiva is after her. Cheshire believes the Shadows intend to kill her. We return to the Premier Building, the base of operations for the Outsiders, as we see the teen superheroes enjoying their time with one another. Their Zeta Tube activates as we watch the 5 members of the team walk through. There's a brief pause as Beast Boy reunites with Megan, Blue Beetle high-fives Superboy, and Robin stands to meet Nightwing, but realizes that something's wrong. The team assembles the Outsiders for some news and explain to them the necessary step they all feel they must take. The League, the team, and the Outsiders will be working with the Light to stop Apocalypse. Beast Boy is immediately furious, interrupting Nightwing as he tries to calm him down. What Queen Bee did is unforgivable, but Nightwing isn't saying that they should forgive at all. Blue Beetle intervenes, saying that the Light did help stop the Reach, as we see Kid Flash squirm in his uniform. Beast Boy eventually agrees, but he is not happy about it. Aquaman explains that telling everyone was to increase transparency between teams, as to not mislead anyone as they had before. Beast Boy walks away, clearly distraught. Our final scene in the episode is seeing Artemis come home after a long day, taking Leanne from her mother and thanking her for babysitting while she and Will were out on missions. We see a brief montage of Artemis's nightly routine, getting ready for bed, only to find a note from Will. I'll be back in a few days. Tell Leanne I love her. Episode 5 opens in media res as a covert team consisting of Nightwing, Tigress, and Miss Martian are battling imprisoned convicts within Blackgate. The battle grows tense until a group of villains is blindsided by Poison Ivy's vines as she beckons the heroes down a hall. We cut back to 6 hours earlier as the team meets with the Outsiders at the Premier Building. Nightwing is explaining a joint operation between the teams. Vandal Savage, their new partner, believes that Earth is going to need a defense mechanism for the anti-life equation, a sort of shield from mind-affecting abilities. His previous research in the field of mind control has led to hostilities between him and the League, but this is different, Nightwing explains. No components that he's asking for are inherently corrupting or disastrous, but rather preventative measures as to not have any Earthlings enslaved again. The job, as it's explained, is actually to steal a prototype design for an anti-telepathic helmet that LexCorp has been manufacturing for quite some time, perhaps to defend himself from Queen Bee. There's an unmarked cargo container on its way to a LexCorp safe house, off the grid and far from witnesses. It's shady, yes, but Luthor doesn't want anyone to know that he has it either. Apparently there has been some dissension within the ranks of the Light, a growing distrust after their amounting failures. No doubt it will be guarded by Luthor's own agents. Superboy, Forager, Terra, Arsenal, and Beast Boy will handle this operation as Alpha. The second op is in Gotham. Vandal Savage believes that Pamela Isley's escape from Santa Prisca wasn't an accident, making her a possible key to undoing some of the Anti-Life's mind control. Unfortunately, the op to bring her in worked too well. Since she'd been declared legally sane, the Justice Department had far less leniency for her currently accused crimes, streamlining the case with the very real possibility of the death penalty. The excuse of mind control was not seen as viable for her actions, and she was sent to Blackgate Prison. Beta is made up only of Nightwing, Tigress, and Miss Martian, and a fourth member who they're picking up on the way. Alpha arrives flying over a highway traveling across the plains of the Midwest. 3 heavy trucks drive forward as the supercycle nears, hovering just above the first truck. Superboy lands on top of it as the supercycle breaks off. Up ahead on the road, there's been a rock slide, as we see Terra hiding beneath the rubble just up ahead, concealed. The vehicles begin to slow, and the minute they lurch forward, Superboy jabs a hole in the top of the truck, as a small green insect flies inside. Superboy is about to drop out of sight when we hear a familiar voice demand to know why the trucks have stopped. Icicle Jr. and the Terra Twins exit from the first 2 vehicles, as the third one buckles, a large weight suddenly lifting. Superboy turns to the backside only to see a Mazo staring right at him.
Access Superman.
Heat Vision blasts at Superboy and a fight breaks out. Meanwhile, the stealth bioship flies over Blackgate with Miss Martian and Tigress asking for the identity of Nightwing's 4th agent. He reveals they are also picking up Dr. Quinn, as he believes that she might be able to convince Ivy to come with them willingly. Additionally, she has a set of skills that lends itself quite well to escaping prisons. The other two don't like being kept in the dark about this, and as Nightwing tries to come up with an excuse for why the team didn't need to know, Megan interrupts him, telling him to just hack the cameras in Dr. Quinn's cell while she goes in. Megan cloaks and exits the bioship while Tigress further emphasizes to Dick that he needs to stop keeping secrets. Nightwing, already hacking, gives a non-response by talking about the mission. He can't hack just Dr. Quinn's cameras. Based on how out-of-date Blackgate is hooked up, he's going to have to cut the feeds to an entire ward of the prison. It's only for a few minutes, so he thinks it'll be fine. The camera is cut inside of Blackgate, where we see a group of inmates in the final stages of preparing a prison break. Megan glides into Dr. Quinn's room, and after the initial scare of a ghost entering her cell, the two begin a dialogue. Harley is furious about what happened to Ivy, but Megan explains that it was a mistake and they're trying to undo it, but they need Dr. Quinn's help to convince Pamela. Just as Harley is about to agree, the prison trembles. Harley comments that maybe Miss Martian wasn't the only one with the prison break idea. Megan contacts the bioship for a status report. Small explosives went off, connecting the walls between C and D ward. Tigress, pulling up personnel files, realizes that Sportsmaster is in the neighboring ward, no doubt still working for the Shadows. The team quickly realizes that the Shadows still plan on assassinating Poison Ivy, meaning they need to move even faster now. Harley, unconnected by Megan's psychic link, wants to know what's going on, and Megan quickly tells her that Pamela is still in danger, using her telekinesis to break open the cell door. Guards run by as Harley runs forward, flip kicking the two of them unconscious before they can even see Miss M. The two make a break for Pamela's cell. Back with the LexCorp trucks, the situation is only getting worse. Amazo is a machine that can copy any member of the Justice League, and after Superboy's previous encounter with the android, it looks like it now has a vendetta. Forager and Arsenal try to help out but are quickly caught off guard by the Terror Twins, both of whom using their super strength to keep the young heroes on their toes. Terror is doing well enough against Icicle Jr., but his icy powers are allowing him to hold his ground against the large boulders. Beast Boy, entering the fray, explains that the helmet was in the middle truck, but each truck has a bunch of other LexCorp tech in it, stuff he's never even seen before. Superboy, tanking Amazo for the moment, tells the team to get the helmet and get out. Beast Boy, in a show of bravery, refuses to leave Connor behind and coordinates Alpha in a way that has the villains accidentally striking each other. Icicle Jr. is misdirected into freezing Tuppence Terror, causing Tommy Terror to lash out and strike Jr., ending in Superboy dodging one of Amazo's Superman punches, which strikes Tommy. Now it's all of Alpha against Amazo. Back at Blackgate, Miss Martian and Harley Quinn reach Ivy's cell, seeing it surrounded by inmates with small shivs and pistols. The two start fighting the group, but the encounter is truly ended by Ivy using a spray of pheromones to incapacitate the thugs remaining. Harley and Ivy reunite as Megan contacts Nightwing and Tigress to arrange a pickup. Nightwing and Tigress, meanwhile, are already inside Blackgate, needing to scrub the video feed of their presence there. Megan tells Nightwing that the three of them are on their way, but still no sign of Sportsmaster. Nightwing and Tigress dispatch the last of the inmates around them and quickly accomplish their task, but not before Tigress notices that part of C-Wing holds supervillain gear and that she can see Sportsmaster inside. She moves to pursue, but Nightwing reminds her that this isn't the mission. Tigress stops, and they communicate with Megan to meet where the two wings intersect. Cut back to Alpha, as repeated frontal assaults on Amazo are showing little progress. That's when Arsenal realizes something. One of the trucks was carrying kryptonite. He has the team trick Amazo into using Superman's powers, and using the kryptonite, Amazo temporarily shuts down, long enough for Beast Boy to knock away pieces. Amazo switches to mimicking another Leaguer, but the damage is already done. The team quickly knocks more pieces away until Amazo can no longer function. They find the helmet as Arsenal palms the kryptonite for later, eyeing the truck with a knowing stare. Back at Blackgate, we see the scene we opened with as Ivy clears the hall of would-be attackers. Megan confirms that they have everyone, lifting Ivy and Harley with her telekinesis as Dick and Tigress fire their grapple guns through an above window to the bioship. They begin to fly home as night begins to fall, with Nightwing confirming that the mission was successful, despite Tigress knowing that her father no doubt got away. Our final scene is with Lex Luthor in his office that same evening, watching the footage Tigress just saw of Sportsmaster in Blackgate. Speaking to himself, he too considers the day a success. Episode 6 opens in a moonlit metropolis alley as a great ball of energy ignites the scene. There's a sudden flash of light as a blonde man clad in a blue and gold costume takes in his surroundings, a small metal drone levitating behind him. The man asks if he made it, and the drone informs him that time travel is notoriously tricky to get accurate. but he calculates that they are in Metropolis near enough to where they aim. The two see a news screen across the street reporting the grim reality of a world without Superman. The man smiles and says to himself, "Awesome." We return to our street with the two time travelers, the guy explaining that with Superman gone, everyone will know the name Booster Gold. His drone, Skeets, explains that things might be more complicated than that, given that the year they jumped to was known especially for its hard times and rough outlook on heroes. Booster, unperturbed, is even more enthusiastic about this opportunity. All he needs now is action or a damsel in distress, and then the press will be all over him. Skeets does a scan of the area and directs Booster to fly a few miles south. The two take off as Booster remarks on how easy it'll be to be a hero. We cut to the Source Wall, the very edge of the known universe, as we see Halo and Cyborg training with Metron. The two have been here since the end of the last season, training for what Metron calls the Final Crisis, a prophesized final battle between Earth and Apocalypse. The two must learn to handle their emotions in order to fully master the abilities that the Mother and Father boxes have allowed them to have. Both exist as walking variables, both living and non-living. The previous battle with Granny Goodness at the end of the last season was just a taste of things to come, and should only further highlight their significance in the events that will no doubt play out. Halo has fully embraced the teachings of Metron, but Victor is having some issues. Metron notes that he still possesses the most dangerous human emotion, pride, not just in his team, but in himself. Cut back to Booster Gold, as he rescues a child from an apartment fire. While doing so, he turns back into the house, as he claims that bursting through the ceiling will be much more dramatic. The two burst from the top of the building, causing the whole thing to collapse. Booster gives a loud, disingenuous speech to the crowd below, still holding the child, as Blue Beetle arrives on the scene. Blue yells at this new super, saying that the collapse could have killed someone, but Booster keeps posing with the child. He claims that no one else was in the building to be killed, but after a brief pause he asks Skeets to confirm that, which he does. The two float down, as Blue Beetle tells this new guy to let the Justice League handle things from here. At that point, the press intervene, as Booster Gold makes his very loud, very showy public debut. Booster, ever the showman, addresses Blue Beetle, claiming that he couldn't have done any of this without his best friend, Blue Beetle. Jaime is startled, as Booster throws an arm over his shoulder, posing for more cameras. He whispers to Blue, "I've got to say, Ted, I love the new look." Just then, there's an explosion. Another apartment building several blocks away catches fire. Booster Gold, again whispering to Blue, mentions how the two of them can handle this, just like the old days. Before Blue can respond, Booster is already mid-flight, broadcasting to the public that he and Blue Beetle will handle this fiery scourge. Blue reluctantly follows Booster Gold, his scarab aggressively stating that Booster Gold is an idiot. The two arrive at the scene, Booster already saving women and children as he poses with each outside the building. Jaime, outraged, shouts at Booster to stop posing and keep saving lives. Jaime's scarab notices traces of gasoline and propane around the premises still active. Just then a trail of it leading to Booster ignites, but Blue throws himself between Booster and the explosion. The two go tumbling into a pile of rubble, with Booster shaking it off, but suddenly turning very worried. Panicked, he starts pushing through the rubble, repeating to himself, "Not again, not again." He quickly finds Blue, a bit beat up, but ultimately alright. The scarab once again is aggravated by Booster Gold, referring to Jaime as the late Ted Cord. Jaime just mentions that the explosive was clearly caused by an arsonist, but before he can relay any other information, Booster Gold has Skeets check the Wave Rider database for arsonists in the Metropolis area. Blue stops him, just pointing out, maybe it's that guy with the jetpack. Above them, the two see a man with a large jetpack and flamethrower. He starts to take off, but the two pursue. Back at the Source Wall, Halo and Cyborg are being taught how to integrate with opposing New Gods tech. Halo has already shown an aptitude for this whenever she's used her ability to calm the Father Box, but Cyborg is still showing weakness. Metron informs him that the process is internal, and that he must trust that which is already within him. What is Victor Stone to Victor Stone? We see Cyborg begin a brief meditation as Metron looks through his past. His mother's death, his accident, his hard relationship with his father, his football career, and his brief time as a superhero. Metron sees now. Victor Stone is a hero, but what does being a hero mean? We cut back to Booster and Blue Beetle as they chase down Firefly. Booster makes a few reckless shots, which puts nearby civilians in danger. Once again, Blue Beetle plays interference to Booster's recklessness. Firefly makes it outside the city with Booster hot on his heels, and Blue falling behind. Booster brags to Firefly about all sorts of tech advantages he has over him, but all too late realizes that Firefly set him in a trap, demolition surrounding where Booster stands. Blue Beetle floats down, explaining he'd disabled the device, as he fires a sonic shot to take Firefly out. Booster starts congratulating Ted on another thrilling capture, but Blue Beetle finally admits that he isn't Ted Cord. The faceplate pulls back, revealing Jaime Reyes. Booster takes a seat on the hillside overlooking Metropolis, with Jaime sitting beside him. Booster, his persona deflating, reveals that he and Ted used to know each other. They were the best of friends, in fact. Jaime brings up that he's never heard of anyone called Booster Gold, and no record of him exists in the Scarab's database. Jaime, still confused, asks for an explanation, and Booster gives one. The League never mentioned Booster Gold because he's a joke. He's actually just some punk from the 25th century who wanted to make it big as a hero back when they were still just starting to make a splash. The world knew Ted Cord as a genius scientist and businessman, but Booster always saw his more comedic side. Booster had tried going back to the 25th century for a while, but it didn't exactly work out either, so he figured he'd just jump back again. Time travel isn't an exact science, so when he saw Superman was missing, he just figured that there was a multiverse or something. Jaime, thinking of Impulse, fully understands that time travel can be tricky, but it doesn't give Booster an excuse to be a total jerk for the fame. Booster knows, but the thrill of it all, it went to his head. He missed how it used to be. At that moment, a news van pulls up to the scene, Jaime quickly reforming his faceplate. Cat Grant begins to interview the two of them as Jaime introduces his new friend, Booster Gold. Booster takes over the interview, a smile spreading across his face. That's right, Miss Grant. Blue and Gold are back in action. That concludes part 1 of Young Justice Apocalypse. If you want to hear the full podcast of our uninterrupted thoughts that created this project, you can sign up to our Patreon for $1 and hear what exactly we have in store for the future. Until then, relax, stay safe, and take care.